Welcome to Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo Community, where you are invited to share and inspire each other. This is for tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and the curious. This stream is with Jesse Smith, and we're going to talk specifically about landing your dream job, mostly for tattooers, although a lot of the wisdom and experience that Jesse has to share is applicable to, pretty much every career, I would suppose. So I'm not sure exactly where you're watching from. We go out on some Facebooks and some YouTubes, but you could always find the latest reinventing events if you download the app. So either of the app stores, pick your poison, either the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, and do a search and download for Reinventing the Tattoo. You can also go straight to community.reinventingthetattoo.com. And then the event link will be there. You can see the list of all the upcoming web streams, and the library is growing every day with awesome content. So you can check out all of the replays from all of the events. It's pretty crazy. Let's see here. Upcoming events. Okay, well, actually, let's talk a little bit about the last event. I was just telling Jesse. Yesterday, we had Aaron, an archaeologist who specializes in prehistoric tattoos, so mummies and other preserved people from way back, thousands and thousands of years ago. It was an amazing talk with an awesome expert. Ginger and Guy were interviewing from the community, and yeah, you should definitely check it out on the Reinventing the Tattoo. You can either go into the library, as I was talking about, or into the Reinventing the Tattoo YouTube channel. Those are the two places to catch up on the replays. We'll have them. We'll have them until the fucking YouTube or internet goes away. Okay, other interesting talks. We do have another one next Tuesday that's coming up. That's going to be with John Schweik. I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name, but he's a chemist who is working in Birmingham, I believe, and he's an expert in the inks. He's gotten some grants to be studying the way the inks are interacting in the skin. He's been called in to speak with like NPR and some other heavy outlets about exactly what's going on with the proposed ink bans and whatnot. So it'll be great to catch up with him. Okay, all of these events are brought to you free thanks to our sponsors. We have inkjetstencils.com. You want to check them out. They have a system set up so that you can do your tattoo reference either on your iPad or your computer, and then print them out from your Epson Eco Tank printer, and you could be printing out all your stencils. Saves you hands, saves you time. If you have one of the oversized printers or a larger printer, you can print out sleeves and back pieces and save a shit ton of time. Okay, so we also have Loose Screw Tattoo. Thank you, Jesse. They are actively looking for resident tattooers. So if you are awesome and can handle a busy shop, they've got black and gray clients coming in. They've got color clients coming in. If you do an awesome job and also be a forward-thinking tattooer, let them know you found out about their spots on Reinventing the Tattoo, and they'll know you're kind of in the same vibe as we are. And he'll talk about it a little bit later in this episode, I'm sure. But they have options for like full health and dental, vacation, 401k, all that stuff. So if you want to be really legit and get a house and a family and all that stuff, then, or I don't even know, I'm sure there's a wide variety of ways that you can be successful at his shop. I know there is, because he's awesome. Anyways, loosescrewtattoo.com. Check the join the team link. And then rawpigments.co. They have inks, and they are tapping straight into the source of the pigments right out there in California. They have samples going out in our sample packages, along with Cheyenne, packs of Cheyenne needles and some other goodies that we have in our goodie bags. And those goodie bags you can get if you go into the app. If you go to the let's see, I think it's like library videos. There is the Equinox. We have the replays. You can see it playing in the background. We had Andrew Jones doing visuals, and Aja was doing a live soundtrack to it. It was pretty awesome. And if you go to it and you find it, then you can fill in your studio information, the date that you did your first professional tattoo, or approximate date, and then we will send you pretty awesome goodie bag that's got some great stuff in it. Okay, so we have, I'm going to shorten this up a little bit because I want to get right to talking with Jesse about, well, we had, the title is a pretty funny title. It is how to land your dream job, and I'm also going to add or dream team because we want to talk to both from the point of view of shop owners as well as artists, because there's a lot of artists in the room. I'm going to let Jesse introduce himself a little bit while I take about a minute or two to do some last minute computer things, and then we could start the interview.
All right. Thanks, Gabe. I appreciate that intro. My name is Jesse Smith. I've been tattooing for about 23 years, and I own Loose Screw Tattoo in Richmond, Virginia. And prior to opening Loose Screw, I've had it for about 9 years. I opened it in 2011. Prior to opening Loose Screw, I worked in about 14 different shops. I worked with Bugs out in London, England, for about a year. I worked a couple of shops down in Florida. I've worked out in Texas, and then I've done a lot of shops here in Richmond, Virginia. And throughout working all those shops, of course, there were things that I would have done differently, and then there was a lot of things that a lot of those shops had to offer that I really liked. So when I opened my shop, I took a piece of both of those sides. Every shop I worked at, if I really liked something, I brought it into my shop, and if I wasn't really into it, I tried to keep it out of my shop. So yeah, here I am running a shop 9 years. I've had a lot of great artists come through my shop, and I've had a lot of great artists leave my shop. And throughout that journey, it's kind of helped me figure out, what type of shop I want to run and what my priorities are in running that shop, and what type of people I would like around, and trying to run a shop that is not only, lucrative for everybody, but also inspiring for everybody. And I find that when I'm around a bunch of people who are super inspired and motivated, and it makes me work harder. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with Loose Screw right now.
Awesome. Let's start kind of right from the beginning. And and if any of the story you've already told in detail in any of Guy's interviews or previously, just let us know so that we can refer people. But for the sake of this point of view, I think we're talking to a lot of tattooers and younger tattooers that are seeking out places, and I'm wondering what would help. Maybe some. It would help for them to understand your story, kind of from the very beginning. Did you always start off entrepreneurial? Were you getting beat up as an apprentice? Again. So let's hear it from like a businessy end of it, and then referring to any previous interviews if you can, so we don't recover ground you already have.
Yeah, so I started tattooing in July of '98. March of '98, and I was tattooing out of my house at the time. I was actually in the military, in the Army. So at that particular point in time, there wasn't much entrepreneurial stuff going on. It was just like telling my friends that I tattoo, they'd come over, I'd tattoo them. It wasn't my sole source of income. And then after doing it for a while and realizing that it was going to be my sole source of income, and back, when I first started tattooing, the internet wasn't a really prevalent thing. People didn't have many websites. So, I want to say I was probably one of the first artists in Richmond who had a website. So I found that I kind of had to take control of my career, because every time I would go to a different shop or move, I'd had to kind of start all over. So, and having a website, I had a home where people could always find me. And yeah, it's kind of taking control of your own career by, it's kind of required of us as artists to have somewhat of an entrepreneurial kind of backing to kind of help out with keeping everything running, ordering inventory, customer service, paying taxes, all these things that, most people who have a job don't have to do, because they work for a business that takes care of most of that for them.
And now you had some experience in the military too. So were any of those skills coming from there, or is that something I just made up?
So, in the military, and I grew up as a military brat. So my father was in the Army as well. So I would say that one of the biggest things I've probably brought from being involved in that particular environment is just being very disciplined, being accountable for your actions, try to show up on time, having your drawings ready, and just kind of following through. And I find that at least when I first started tattooing, there's very few people in the tattoo world that had those particular attributes, and I got made fun of a lot for, having them. And I realized because of that, it almost was like a playground for people who could actually follow through on things. It's like there was very few people who would, show up for their appointments ready and all that stuff. So of course, as a person who, a collector or whatever, who's taking it, getting a tattoo seriously, they want an artist who's going to take it seriously as well and be there and be ready for them when they show up. I mean, not to mention the fact that they're spending a substantial amount of money on a piece of artwork.
Yeah. And so did you kind of have this vision of the experience already in your head, and you were trying to find a shop that would kind of fit it, or were you floating around, or how did that process look?
Yeah, I mean, being that I was in the military and grew up in the military, health insurance and dental insurance and all that stuff was just, I always had it. I never had to pay for it because the military paid for it. And I remember when I got out of the military, I was actually married at the time. So I was still collecting. My wife at the time was in the military. So I was getting free medical, free dental, all that stuff. But I remember watching all my friends just struggling. None of them had insurance. Whenever tax season came along, they were all like running around with their heads cut off, trying to like catch up for all the tax money they owed. And I just remember seeing everyone always struggling in these situations. There was very few people that I saw that had their shit together where they weren't hitting that wall around the beginning of every year, after a slow season in December and Christmas and stuff like that. So, I had always thought, like, if I open a tattoo shop, what I want to do is try to like kind of smooth it out, smooth things out a little bit. So it's not like make a ton of money in the summer, make no money in the winter, and then, have to pay taxes like crazy. Or if you broke your arm, you're struggling because you had to, pay X thousands of dollars to get your arm taken care of. I wanted to try to create something where maybe you wouldn't make a ton of money all at once, but it was a steady stream. So you wouldn't be sitting there getting stressed out hardcore and then, having to scramble around or set up a GoFundMe or anything like that. So it was always a goal of mine even before I opened a tattoo shop, to try to figure out how to provide insurance for the artists who worked at my shop.
Yeah, cool. And then, and just sorry, refresh my memory. But how many shops and how many years was it where you were, in between, when you started a tattoo and when you opened up? Was Loose Screw your first shop? It feels like it.
Yeah, Loose Screw was my first shop. I think I can't remember specifically, but I'm pretty sure I was in about 14 different shops
Oh shit! Okay.
before I opened my own shop. Yeah, I was in a lot for
So
various
you,
reasons. I mean, there
yeah.
was the, back then I was definitely, I didn't fit in well in the tattoo world. I wasn't heavily tattooed. I listened to hip hop music. I was doing new school tattoos. So, there was definitely a lot of friction that I would catch in a lot of shops. There were some great shops that I worked at as well. Working for Bugs was great, because he was doing cubism. So it's like, he was kind of thinking outside the box as well. And then there was other shops that I would say out of the 14 shops I worked at least half of them were good shops. They just, I did a lot of traveling. I when I was in college, I went to London, I went to Florida, and I went to Texas, and then of course Richmond. So those 4 different states, or 4 different locations. And then even within Virginia, I moved a couple hours outside of Richmond. So it wasn't like every single one was leaving because I wasn't happy or got fired or whatever it might be. It was, I was just constantly moving. I think for the first 10 years out of high school, I probably moved at least once a year, even if it was in the same city, just because I wanted to have a different apartment or whatever. I was kind of getting out of this world where I was used to moving every 3 or 4 years. And for the first time, I've been in the same place for 20 years now.
Bam, there you go. Hey, have you ever been fired?
I've been fired twice, I
Uh huh.
think. But yeah,
Did you
I
deserve
got
it, or did
fired.
you learn it? What did you learn from it?
You know, I will say, well, I mean, if you ask me, I would say they were both pretty ridiculous. But
Yeah,
the first one's kind of a funny one. Is It was the first top tattoo shop I ever worked at. Was super excited to get it into the shop. I walk in, the guy's like, "Oh man, you do good work, but we want to send you through an apprenticeship just to kind of make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do." And he was like, it'll be a kind of a truncated apprenticeship, couple weeks or something like that. So I'm working on stuff. I'm tracing things, coloring things. Just they're making sure I know cross contamination, all that stuff. And I remember the owner came in and he's like, "Hey, we got this new piercer, and you should let her pierce your belly button." And I was like, "I ain't get my belly button pierced. That shit's gay." And like back then, that was a word that was thrown around pretty often. Obviously, doesn't make it right, but it was just something I said as a young guy. And I remember the owner lifted his shirt up, and he had his belly button pierced, and I got fired the next day. So I don't know if I don't think it was because of my inability to communicate politically correct. It was more about the fact that I kind of made him feel bad about his belly button ring.
Sure. But it's all it takes is to insult one person who's getting a poor memorial tattoo to be like, oh, maybe I'll
Sure.
just pull back on some of my personal criticisms on what other people are getting for the moment.
For sure.
But
Yeah,
so
I mean, a lot's changed since then, and I've changed a ton since then. And really trying to show respect for everyone, no matter which angle they're coming from, even if they do have their belly button pierced.
absolutely right. So okay, so you worked at like a bazillion different shops. So you must have seen all of the differences between, I'm sure a ton of different pirate shops, as well as more like corporate shops. And I guess it would be interesting for us to kind of dissect a little bit about the differences because just because you're a pirate shop doesn't mean you're not like disciplined, right? Although a lot of people would think of corporate as more disciplined. Although we know there's corporate places that are not disciplined, so it's like these big behemoth shit shows. And we know pirate ships that aren't that are all every person for themselves, and it staggers everyone's back. So like, anyways, I guess the point being is it would be awesome to hear a little bit from you about the different experiences in some of these different shops. Again, for the viewers that are younger in their careers to kind of see what the landscape was looking like and so why you're changing it into what you want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very large spectrum between shops. You have your quote unquote pirate shops per se, where stuff goes under the table and everybody's kind of doing whatever they want to do. Is what I would consider kind of like a full blown pirate shop. And then you've got your super corporate shops, which are typically owned by like some rock star that wanted an investment, and then he opens up a shop and it's ran by a bunch of hot topic kids or something like that. So you have those two different angles, and it's like, how do you ride that balance between the two? Because you, as an artist, we don't want to work in a corporate environment. That's one of the cool things about being a tattoo artist and being an artist in general, is to kind of work in a place where you can be free to express yourself. But on the same note, we are serving the public, and it's our responsibility to provide the public with, at least showing up on time, having your artwork ready, all that stuff. And then, as a shop owner, everyone in my shop represents me. Like you don't know how many bad reviews I have on Google that from people who don't even work at my shop anymore, and that it doesn't follow them to the next shop. It just stays on my feed. So, but yeah, I think there's pros and cons. It's kind of like, I always use the example of, if you go into Target and you get mistreated by one of the employees there, or you aren't happy with one of the products you buy there, most of the time, because it's such a big corporation, they're going to look out for you first as a customer. And then, if you go into like a mom and pop place, you might get a little more intimate situation and it might be more personable, but if for whatever reason you're not happy with your product, there's no guarantee that you're going to get a refund. There's a lot of variables involved on what you might get out of that situation. So, like I said, it's kind of like, what I would like to run is something that is a place where artists know that they have a safe environment to work and know that there's going to be there's going to be clients coming through the door consistently. Their job is sound, where they don't have to worry about losing it. And then of course they've got, the medical, the dental, all the kind of things that kind of stabilize their lives a little bit in case something bad happens. And then also on the art side is just having people in there that are motivated and are interested and eager in learning and just inspiring. When I opened my shop, I felt like it just kind of gave me a whole new kind of slingshot into being more motivated, because I had all these artists who were kind of like looking up to me, and I was like, man, I gotta keep on crunching. Whereas before, when I was working at other people's shops, I was having to motivate myself to do better. So I don't know if that particularly answers your question, but hopefully I
Yeah,
touched
no,
on
no,
some
no.
of the stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, maybe, and that leads into maybe the next one, which is so, as a shop owner now, and in it for a while, so you've seen a significant amount of artists, as you're saying. Some have come and stayed for an exceptionally long period of time, and some come and go. And but what is it that you are now looking for, right? So if you have, I mean, obviously there's a wide variety of awesome different types of people that you would love to have work in the shop. Um, but what are some of the people that or characteristics that you're looking for that you find that are most successful, in the environment that you're looking there?
I think the people that I'm most attracted to are the people who really love art and really love what they do. I've been told by some of the artists who have left my shop in the past that my shop was, not as fun as other shops that they've been at. And I remember thinking in my head, I'm like, well, yeah, I guess if you're not into art, my shop's probably not that fun. If you're into
Oh,
like
sure.
partying and stuff like that, my shop is not the place for you. But if you're into art, my shop's a great place to be. We do art days on Wednesdays, where we sit down and we watch tutorials and watch movies and sit there and draw together. We have guest artists who come in and teach classes. We're just constantly doing art stuff. I mean, that's really what's kind of gotten to me where I am today. Is I just absolutely love art, and everything I've done is just revolves around art, and then trying to figure out how to help people make money off of their art consistently, not just sitting here making a ton of money right now and then tomorrow it's all gone and they have nothing
To
to show for it.
to that point, the when people are focused on their art, right, and that is their number one priority. And I see this when I'm dealing with hundreds of artists, or not dealing with, when I'm interacting with hundreds of artists. When shit gets really weird or the drama comes out, um, they want to just focus on their art. So like, look, I don't have time for this. I just need to like create art and hang out with my friends and family, like and all of the other stuff. Obviously,
Sure.
and then business. To your point, like the business takes up so much time there in and of itself that you really do need to be able to focus
Yeah.
on it appropriately. Cool. So I guess
Well, then also
yeah.
one thing I try to do with all my guys is try to get them to think forward a little bit, like, so we offer it's retirement benefits. So like, essentially I have a financial advisor and I set everybody up with her, and she hooks them up with Roth IRAs and gets them to start saving money and all that stuff. And of course, as a young artist, you don't think about that. You think that the well of clients is going to be indefinite, and you think you're going to be making millions of dollars forever and all that stuff. But there's times where it doesn't happen. For example, with the pandemic, and there's certain things that are out of our control that control the momentum of whether someone wants to get tattooed or not, whether it's TV shows or the lack thereof. So, I'm always trying to get everybody to think, hey, take all this money that you're making right now, put it into a Roth IRA, put it into some property, just trying to like set these guys up for a future retirement potentially. And not that most artists don't want to retire, but it would feel good to be able to do that if you wanted to.
Well, I mean, they're going to one way or another. Like no one can work forever.
It's true.
Hey, so real quick, let's see. So Sandy says your art sounds like a blast. Your shop sounds like a blast. Obviously the Reinventing crew is a very artistic oriented crew. SJ says, "Hey, super excited for this one!" Exclamation point. And then she asks, "Okay, awesome. Well, I said if you have any questions, just let us know." She says, "Awesome, thank you. How did you know when you were ready to move to full-time tattooing? I currently work another full-time job and want to make the shift in June this year. And then any advice on what to expect or to prepare for that shift?"
It's really weird because I never really knew that I was going to be a tattoo artist. It just kind of happened. I was tattooing out of my house when I was in the military. And so, of course, I had the military being my full-time job. It wasn't an option to quit the military, so I was stuck in it until my time was up. And then when I moved up to Richmond, this was from Newport News, to go to art school, I just kind of did it on the side. And it was never really about the money at that particular point in time. And then when I graduated college, it was like I had built up so much momentum with clients and all that stuff. It was like the clients pretty much, forced me into working as much as I worked because they wanted me to tattoo them. So I don't know. That's a tough question. I think it's going to be different for everyone. I think it's, if you wanted to move in, I find it hard to believe that if anybody wanted to move into full-time tattooing right now and they could, I feel like that anyone who wants to be a full-time tattoo artist right now could be one, as long as they found the right shop that could provide the clientele for them. So it's really, I think in that particular sense, it's probably more of whenever you feel like you're ready mentally to do it. I personally think that to get the best out of tattooing and the best out of it, you got to go full-time.
Yeah, I'm also a pretty rough person to ask that question too, as far as freelancing goes, because it was like I had like maybe 2 or 3 regular jobs, and then since I was 19, always freelanced or worked for myself in many ways. There was no safety net to keep me back from it. So yeah, often it's, but frankly, it sounds like you already know when. Oh, so I guess the advice would be to go full tilt, right? If you're going to be shifting over in June, is what it sounded like. I want to make the shift in June. Um,
Yeah, I guess my question would be is what's stopping you? There was never a question in my mind as soon as it was available for me to be able to work full time as a tattoo artist, I did. And the only thing that was stopping me from being a full time tattoo artist was college and the military. So,
yeah, cool. So you also catch up with a lot of different shop owners. I always admire that you're very deliberate about doing guest spots. Even though you're a shop owner, you still take the time to do guest spots at various places. And often it's because obviously friendships and personal relationships and whatnot, but it's also you land at places where you always have stuff to learn from, from really awesome shop owners. Do you care to talk about that a little bit and how that's helped inform, some of your crew and maybe some of your hiring process?
yeah, I mean, I'm good friends with Halo, who runs Black Lotus, who probably, in my opinion, runs one of the best shops in the world. He's just very on top of stuff, and him and I have very similar thought processes on things. I'll hit him up and I'll be like, "Hey, man, how's things going? Have you had anybody leave? Whatever." And he kind of talks to me about his problems and how he's handled them, and we kind of dish around. So I've learned a lot from Halo. Frank Linatra is another one who I feel like runs a pretty tight ship. Russ Abbott, another guy who runs a tight ship. I mean, I think, and these are all people who absolutely love art. They just have a good, in my opinion, a good temperament for running a shop and trying to make sure that they care about the artists and the art within their shop, but also realize that you still have to run a business. If the business isn't running, then all the people in your shop don't have a job. So it's definitely a balance. There's times when my artists come to me and they want this, that, or whatever, and I'm like, look, that's not working for the big picture. It might work for you individually, but it doesn't work for the big picture. So anyways, yeah, I love traveling anyway. So if I have an excuse to do it, I'm going to do it in guest spots with my friends, who most of them are shop owners now, because I'm older generation within the tattoo world. But yeah, it's
middle-ish generation.
Middle-ish, yeah. I mean, relatively speaking. I heard a statistic once that said that, and this was a while back, it was like 70% of the tattoo artists in the industry at that particular point in time, and I think this was like 5 years I heard this, it's like 70% of the industry came in after 2005, because that's right when the TV shows started.
Sure.
So relatively speaking, most of the scenarios I find myself in these days, I'm one of the older tattoo artists.
No doubt.
At least experience-wise.
I'm just trying not
What's
to.
that?
I'm just trying not to get myself wrapped up in your timeline. Okay, so so as far as traveling is concerned and whatnot, like, what do you expect out of your tattooers? Like I said, I'm sure you've worked at the shops where the owners were like, "You can't travel because then you'll never come back," and then others that are like, "Do whatever the hell you want to," but then it's laissez-faire and everything's crazy and no one knows whenever anybody's around. What ends up working for you? And obviously you love to travel, so you can't have a complete iron fist over. Or, well, I'm not even implying that you would. Point being is, what is your policy on traveling with your tattooers, and is that common amongst other tattoo shops, or how does that play out?
Yeah, so when I first opened my shop, I didn't really have any rules on traveling or taking time off. And, I started realizing that people were just kind of leaving and they wouldn't let me know where they're going, or, not that they were trying to hide it. They just didn't think about letting me know where they were going. And I didn't know when they were coming back or anything like that. So then, one of their clients would come through the front door trying to get tattooed by them or whatever. And we didn't even know what to tell them. So I ended up kind of putting in this rule that was like, hey, 30 days off a year, just give me 2 weeks notice. Let me know when you're trying to take off. I rarely tell anybody that they can't take off unless it's going to hurt the shop. And a month out of the year, I don't know that I've had too many people have any issues with that. I think there was like maybe one person, and they were such a good employee, employee, that I just didn't even, I was just like, hey, if you need more time off, just let me know. I don't mind going over that 30 because you're such a hard worker. But just making people conscious of how their actions affect the shop that they work at. If you're taking 6 months off a year, then, it sounds like it's time for you to share your booth with someone else, because, as a person who needs to pay rent for that building, that space is valuable.
Yeah, and it's really that just trying to get everyone on the same page about how it's really about in this case, it's really about the client experience. It's not about controlling the the schedule of the artist, but if an artist gives you again, I mean, 2 weeks is a short period of time, to even replace somebody, usually 4 to 6 weeks, then you can maybe find somebody to shift around some schedules to fill the spots. I mean, if you have 6 artists that are all taking off whenever they want to, then all of a sudden the shop could find themselves with like 2 artists on, and the bills don't go down. But again, mostly it's about the communication too. Like you're saying, when people walk through the door and they're asking for an artist, and it's like, well, where are they? I thought they were going to be here, but oh wait, no, they're not here. Oh wait, they're not going to be here for another week. Then all of a sudden, the whole experience for that, the person who's walking through the door is just like, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't even know what's going. It's just communication.
Dude, how many times have you walked into a business? How many times have you walked into a business where you're like, hey, I need to get this thing, whatever it is. And they're like, oh, we don't know anything about that. And the person who, let me go see if I can find out when the person who knows that is here. And then they're like, oh, we don't know. And it's like, can you imagine walking into a business, going in to try to buy something or whatever it is, and they're just like, yeah, we don't know. And it's like, what do you mean you don't know? This is your business.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I think it's a respect thing on both sides. If you and I were roommates and I was going to take off for a month, and leave you with my cat. I should definitely keep you posted on when that's happening, because it's the fair thing to do.
Absolutely, and it's weird. Again, like I said, it's but again, often when you're talking about this kind of stuff and using it in part of your like recruiting methods, and again, when you talk about like, so you have shop meetings and stuff, I imagine, or how does communication work with inside of Loose Screw?
So we used to have shop meetings. COVID kind of has definitely put a wrench in those gears. A lot
Right.
of the way we communicate now is just mass emails and mass texts, just saying, "Hey guys, just so you know, this thing is happening," or "Hey everybody, this week at Art Day, we're going to be watching this movie and we're going to be listening to this tutorial, just so you know what's going on."
Yeah, cool.
But I also meet with every artist at least once a year, like a legit sit down, and just kind of ask them about what their goals are, what they're looking for, if there's anything that I can do to make it their situation here better. And you get a lot of those meetings, and those are the meetings where if someone was thinking about leaving, they'll tell me, and we kind of figure out either one, an exit strategy, or two, try to figure out a way to get them to stay, what it is that they need. My goal is to, like I said, provide an environment for that people want to be in, and sometimes this isn't the environment for them. There's a lot of artists that I've met that they don't want to they don't want to be a tattoo artist. They specifically want to be a tattoo artist because they don't want a job. And it's like, well, I mean, if you don't take this seriously, then you're not really the type of person that I want working at the shop, because I take this very seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. It's and you can still take it seriously and have fun. And it's I
Sure.
think it was maybe Hannah Aitchison was talking about how sometimes if you have if you're the more disciplined you are with a set of rules, almost the more fun you could have, because like everyone's playing the same rules, and pushing in
Sure.
the same direction. So let's see. So we have a question here, and we have maybe about 5 minutes left before we should wrap this up and let you get back to the rest of your day. But Ali K is asking, hey guys, what advice would you give to a younger you when you were starting up your studio? And I'm just going to let you answer that. I'm not going to answer that question.
I think the one thing that I wish I had done, and I don't know if I would have been able to do it back then, but is really try to establish what you expect out of your artists and what you expect out of your employees, and what they should expect out of you in return for that. I kind of tried to do it when I first opened my shop, but it's a little difficult. Sometimes you don't realize that you need to tell people, hey, I don't particularly want you snorting cocaine off the corner of your tattoo station while clients are in the shop. You don't realize that that's something that you need to write down. So it's like trying to figure out all the things that someone in the shop might do that you just aren't cool with. And I've had to lay down a bunch of rules on things that just I've considered common sense. I had an artist come in with a knife, probably 9-inch knife on his hip, and he's tattooing his clients with it, with a 9-inch knife on his hip. And I'm just like, do you really need that knife on your hip while you're tattooing? Like, it's not exactly the most inviting, situation for people. And if you're that worried about something bad happening, then maybe we should discuss how to make you feel a little safer. But so
I'm
yeah, I
sorry.
guess trying to figure out what it is that you're cool with, what you're not cool with. Get as much of that down as possible. And when you're hiring people or bringing people in, even if they're your friends or whatever, just kind of like laying down that foundation, as uncomfortable as it may be. I think that uncomfortable conversation will make it so it's not as uncomfortable down the road.
Sure. I keep popping in and I'm laughing because I'm remembering maybe a year or two ago, I was reading through my old handbooks, and like I had different versions of them, right? And then I had been, fuck off. I had been, I looked at one that was really old, and like some of the things that were written in the handbook, like like they were just absurd, and it was a little. Some of them were authoritarian. There was like, you can't do this, but it was like, you can't, be really rude to your customers or something. So it was so absurd, some of the things that, and then I'm recalling the stories of what triggered that, for me putting it into the handbook. But I guess so. So my question is, do you have a handbook there at Loose Screw? Like how do you communicate, some of these things, and would you suggest that first question is, do you have one?
Yeah. So the
Yeah,
the other thing that I would recommend that sounds a little overboard on a lot of to tattoo shop owners is getting some sort of HR department. I actually work with this company called Bambee. It's Bambee, and they basically will put together a handbook. They'll let you look at it. You can go through and see what pertains to you and your business, what pertains to what doesn't. I mean, and a lot of this stuff is like super, it's really corporate. So like I end up going through and trying to soften some of it up because I don't want it to sound like that within my shop. I don't want my shop to sound like it's a Chipotle or anything like that. But it does give you some good ideas where it's like, okay, are you cool with, you know, people playing music that has swear words in it or whatever it is that you might, it'll just stimulate ideas. I don't really care if people play music with swear words in it. Um, but it kind of makes me think, okay, well, what am I cool with? So it might be good to kind of hit up with an HR department. Like I said, you can check out that company. It's called Bambee, Bambee, and just get one of their handbooks and just kind of go through it, and that'll give you a good kind of basic structure of things that you may want to put into place before you open your shop.
yeah, that's great advice. And I do have the tattoo now business courses and the new reinventing the tattoo business courses that are coming up that cover a lot of stuff. They have some sample handbooks and whatnot. But as far as if you're like literally just starting up your shop and your business and fucking and I lawyer and accountant.
Yeah,
You
that's
have you
true.
have
Yeah,
to
lawyer
have
and accountant.
and I fucking was like, no, I'm not a lawyers and accountants, no way, like whatever. And then eventually I did like hire business consultants and accountants. I hired, but they weren't, you know, experienced in the nuances of the tattoo world. And so, you
Sure.
need to make sure that you have an accountant or an accounting that, is using the appropriate formulas. And then that lawyer, it seems so horrible to have to really encourage somebody to get a lawyer on their side. But if you're going to own a tattoo shop, then you need to make sure. Basically, you need to make sure that you're poking at all the possible weaknesses yourself before somebody else does. And having a real good lawyer that you trust, which is not trivial to find. And I'm saying I haven't found one yet. Is if you all of a sudden grow something, 10, 15, years later, um, the worst time to try to find a lawyer is 3 days after you need one. So
Right.
I heard
And
I
then,
had
I think that the HR department is kind of runs in tandem with that. Like
yeah.
a lot of times, the one thing about the tattoo world is most of us who've been in it for a while, the experience that we have within businesses revolves around a bunch of people who didn't know how to run businesses, teaching us how to run businesses or what's the correct way to do this, that, or whatever. And after I got an HR department, I started realizing that some of this stuff is completely illegal. Not just from, there's things that the artists do or have done consistently throughout my tattoo career that are completely illegal. And then on the other side, as an employer, there's a lot of things that you're required to do. That there's a lot of stuff a lot of rules and laws that the state puts in place to protect the artists or the employees from you. So HR department's a good kind of way to like balance everything out. It protects you from things that your employees may do to you, but it also protects your employees. It also lets you know what you need to do in order to kind of be fair to your employees. Um, and I think that's another thing that, I know we don't have much time here, but talking about the independent contractor versus employee situation, for the first, 20 years of my career, it was all about independent contractor. And most tattoo artists are independent contractors, as far as I know, within the tattoo industry. But I do think that is slowly starting to turn in a different direction. I think because cash is becoming less prevalent. And I also think that because tattooing has become so popular, that there are some entities above us who are realizing that they need to kind of tighten things down because stuff's not getting accounted for. So I also feel comfortable kind of like having jumping the gun on that and just getting myself in that position. So when that ball does drop, I'm already, everybody's already protected. But I've definitely, I mean, I think, didn't it happen in Massachusetts?
Oh
Wasn't it?
yeah, I was told, I only have myself to blame for all of my troubles. I was told to get the lawyer and the accountant. I was told when I did get an accountant that was okay, that I needed to hire everybody on as employees as opposed to the independent contractors, and that if I had to defend it, I probably would not be able to. But in my head, and I asked around. There was a couple of local or semi-local regional tattoo shop owners who had already done the same thing. Cam Man out in Medford, Mass, at Visions. He had already hired on his people. He had gotten a business consultant who said it's not legal for you to do this in Massachusetts, and he's a tattooer, which obviously doesn't change the laws for anybody, but he had better leverage, I suppose, to tell everybody that he was hiring everybody on. And at the time, I was like, I'm not, what am I going to do? Go back to my tattoo shop and tell them all I'm going to hire them on as employees? That's laughable. They'll all walk on me. And
Yeah,
I mean, in fair, and I guess I don't know. By the time I got sued by the state, and then I tried to defend myself, whatever, $15,000 in lawyer fees. Again, back to lawyers. $15,000 in lawyer fees later, I was able to keep the guest artists as independent contractors, but all the residents in Massachusetts have to be staff. They have to be hired on tattooers, and basically, if you were a tattooer in Massachusetts and you're not an employee of the tattoo shop, it's illegal. And we spent a lot of money. And it's amazing. I was thinking about this actually earlier in preparation of this. There was a tattooer, there was two tattooers who were in the conversation that we had with all the lawyers. So when like the shit's really hit, when we're in it, we're in the conference room with the enemy lawyers, the state lawyers, our lawyers, and it's horrible to be in. And they're like, you have to hire on all of your artists and all of your guest artists. I'm like, we can't hire on our guest artists. Somebody's coming in from California for 2 days. They're not like ever
right.
claiming unemployment in Massachusetts. Like, but the thing is, like, you play that game where it's like if you're not going to, they're going to try to get everything they possibly can. As lawyers, whichever side you're on, by definition, they're trying to. To get as much as they can. But anyway, so we were fighting this, and those two tattooers that were in those calls have a unique perspective on that fight that we had, right? So when people are out there bitching that we had to hire people on and we're trying to be corporate and controlling and whatnot, like they know that's bullshit because they were in that call when we were like fighting tooth and nail trying to convince, all of the lawyers and all of the people involved, again, and we were doing pretty good. We had our contract, we had our 10 different points. But anyways, so yeah, point being is in this case, as a young business, you do need to make sure that you are 100% tight with your state laws as far as independent contractors who can be employees and whatnot. And it can change the
I do
spirit of,
think that I was going to say, I do think it's just a matter of time, when I think that the government is eventually going to come in and require, I mean, they want taxes on all the money that's out there. So, as cash becomes less, less attainable, and as the computers start getting, technology and all that stuff starts getting there, and you're having to buy everything through the internet and stuff like that, it's the everything's just slowly tightening down, and the people who are not positioned to be prepared for that are the ones that are going to get hit the hardest. You may have $100,000 in your mattress, but you ain't gonna be able to do nothing with it in the future if you don't put it in the right place, and you're not showing that. So I don't know. I think everybody in the tattoo world, a lot of people in the tattoo world, are very discouraged by the title of employee. But like I said earlier, in being an employee, you're protected. Independent contractor, you're on your own. And from my experience, most of the artists that I've met, there are some that aren't like this, but most of the artists I've met, they aren't they're not really running a independent contractor business within a tattoo shop. They don't have business insurance. They don't have they're not really taking care of themselves. There are some that have come through that are fully sustainable. They've got their business license, they've got their business insurance, they've got all that stuff taken care of. But most of the people I know in the tattoo world who are independent contractors, they're not protecting themselves or their clients.
Yeah, no, it's very particular. But okay, so let's wrap this up. But if we could wrap this up with you just kind of laying it all out with the loose screw recruiting pitch and be like, hey, if you are a tattooer who is X, Y, and Z, or you're looking for what's going on, and I think that this was an awesome interview. You gave a lot of value to people, and we could definitely. A 4-minute hard pitch on loose screw tattoo, I think, is completely appropriate for everybody to catch right now.
Okay. So yeah, I own Loose Screw Tattoo. We're always looking for motivated, ambitious, professional tattoo artists. We've got a great shop with great people, great staff. We offer medical, dental, 401 or retirement options. We also offer paid vacations, and we pay for 100% of the supplies. So if you need a tattoo machine, we take care of that. My goal is to take care of everyone who works in my shop. And, I always tell the artists at my shop is their success is my success and vice versa. We are a team, and, we are all working towards trying to create a better life for ourselves and our families, and be the best artists we can be in the process. So if that's something that you're interested in being a part of, hit us up at loosescrewtattoo.com. There's a little tab up above there that says join the team. Click that, fill it out, and if we got some space available, we'll hit you up.
Awesome. I almost want to ask you, what doesn't work at Loose Screw Tattoo, so you can do like the being late, being disrespectful, but I don't want to end on a sour note. Awesome. This has been really fun, and I'm really excited. I know that one of your most favorite holidays is coming up, and it always causes quite the controversy. So I'm very eagerly anticipating hearing more about what's happening at Loose Screw in the next couple months. And maybe you could come on and if you ever have any benefits, I know that you're always very strong in the benefits world there. We would definitely want to make sure that everyone knows about what you have going on in that regard. And if you do you have any? Do you have 2 minutes? Do you have an upcoming benefit going on at all? Or
yeah, we've got one coming up in a couple of weeks. I'll put more information out there about it, but it's going to be an interesting one. It's definitely going to stir some feathers. So I'm excited about it, but we're going to be, raising money. I have that nonprofit Giving Arts Foundation, so we're going to have them involved. And basically we're just going to be raising money to, help animals in need, and help other nonprofits who help animals. So it's going to be kind of like a little 1-week drive where we're really trying to help people out. Or help the animals out.
I'm wicked down. So we'll be. We always love the benefits, so we're definitely going to do our part to chip in if anybody wants. Again, you know how to get in touch with Loose Screw Tattoo, and yeah. Well, thank you very much. Now is the time. Oh, what do we have? Last couple of comments here. We've got Ali K says awesome advice. Thank you for sharing, Jesse. SJ says goals. Thank you for sharing and setting this up. Love what you've done with your shop, setting the bar pretty high for standards with confetti. Woo! Awesome. Well, thanks.